topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart.
Hello and welcome to It's Your Voice, the show that hosts enriching conversations in diversity. My name is Bahia Yaxan. I'm a core alignment coach, an emotional wisdom training specialist, and a diversity educator. We have a really incredibly special show tonight to continue honoring Women's History Month. And it will include some live and some recorded songs by very active, powerful, talented, amazing activist duo called Emma's Revolution. And before I say a little bit more to introduce them, I want to thank my dear, dear friend, Allison Kimmel, for introducing me to Pat Humphries, which led to me meeting the other half of Emma's Revolution, Sandy O. So I would really love for you guys to come on now while I'm going to read a little bit of an intro because it's just so amazing. And then I want to just ask y'all to add just any highlight you think you'd like people to know, because so many people follow you. You have a big national presence. You have an international presence, but we want to make sure more and more people hear your music and know what brought you to 21 years of being a duo, which is no small task. Musicians to stick together that long. So one thing I want to mention is the show we titled I Believe Her, which is based on the title of one of their songs. And I believe we're going to play a recording of that. It's one of the very powerful songs, and you'll hear more about it before we have DJ or engineer play it. I want to mention that their name was based on activist Emma Goldman, who was a powerful voice for the rights of women, children, and workers, and was so powerful she was actually deported from the United States. I wanted to mention that a documentary is currently being made about Emma's Revolution by the incredibly accomplished filmmaker Tom Weidlinger. And we want to say more about that later because it's really helpful if we can contribute funds to help that documentary be made. I saw 17 minutes of the clip, learned so much about women's history, about human rights. You are going to want to help support this film. And I'll just say one more thing before their voices come into the conversation, which is anybody who's been following me for a while knows Robert Shetterly, the portrait painting incredible artist who has a series of portraits called Americans Who Tell the Truth. And both Pat Humphries and Sandy O are in that series. And we are even going to play, they will play a song that was quoted by Robert on the portrait of Pat. And let me just turn to you two now to see anything you want people to know before we dive in.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having us. I'm Sandy O.
And I'm Pat Humphries.
It's lovely to be with someone whose whole purpose, whole perspective in this show is to talk about diversity, is to talk about the kind of things that we are seeing come under attack. When you were talking about Emma Goldman, and she was an activist from late 1800s, early 1900s, my first thought was she would have been deported from Florida if she were living there. We would be deported from Florida. And thank goodness
and
for
Texas and Tennessee and Alabama and Mississippi
and Wyoming so thank goodness for people like you, Bahia, and programs like this where voices like ours are welcomed and part of the focus.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. That's very, very kind of you. And it's just such a great time to have y'all on the show, honestly, because you have brought a lot of inspiration to movements, not only for women, for farm workers' rights, actually all kinds of human beings. We can make a long list. Gay, lesbian, you can add more, but it's just the fact that you two are still making music that's responsive to what's happening in the culture is, I think, incredibly helpful. And I think that's why playing. I know one of the songs I requested that y'all do is Pat said, "Oh, that's from a long time ago." Like, it's still relevant. It still matters. And it mentions several pieces of like our collective history. Like when we were honoring folks for Black History Month. One of our first guests said, hello, Black history is American history. And same, women's history is American history. But I mean, your songs go beyond America. But I want to hear me less and hear you more.
Well, it's lovely that you already know Rob Shetterly. We know him. We were based on the East Coast for many years, and he's based in Maine. But we would literally overlap with him at, like festivals up in Maine. And he's friends of a friend of ours who's also an amazing activist. And so when we found out about that project, it's such an extraordinary project. I mean, he started out painting, people like Frederick Douglass, and Emma Goldman and that kind of stuff. And then he decided to paint people who are living activists, right now, Medea Benjamin. He painted Rachel Corrie, who was an activist for Palestine Solidarity. And he invited us as well to be part of that group. So it's a big honor. And this song is the song that's quoted on Pat's portrait by Rob.
Yeah, it seems, we were involved in supporting lots of different groups around the country. And it seems for a while there, we just ran into him all the time. So we couldn't help but get into a conversation about him painting us as well. We were in West Virginia together. We were down at the entrance to the School of the Americas down in Georgia. And, he was like, yeah, it seems like you're everywhere I am. I think I need to include you in this collection of paintings. And we were really honored to be in that the company of some incredible artists and activists throughout history.
And it's called Americans Who Tell the Truth, which really sets up this song, which is about when the truth is not told. And as you mentioned, you'll hear in the song some references to, 9/11 and other times, but we are right now in a time of exposing lies continually. So I think you're right that it's a very appropriate song.
Yeah, we could talk more about it after. Came home from school to the war on TV. Looked at the soldiers and thought I saw me. Looked at the children and saw my own face. I saw myself dying all over the place. Saw myself hiding and shaking with fear. Desperately wondering how I got here. From the seat on my bus to my mother's front door, to my shock I had come home right into a war. So many years and back here again. Wasn't anyone listening then? Are we listening now? Have we joined the debate? Our Gulf of Tonkin, our Watergate, our 9/11, our own demise. No more silence and lies. I could see the young man whose number was up. I could see the girl pleading and shaking a cup. Her mother beside her missing a leg. A field, a landmine, a reason to beg. A reason to cower, a reason to fight. A reason to question who's wrong, who's right. To raise up a rifle and sharpen take aim. To find myself caught in the midst of a game. So many years and we're back here again. Wasn't anyone listening then? Are we listening now? Have we joined the debate? Our Gulf of Tonkin, our Watergate, our 9/11, our own demise. No more silence and lies. Iraq, Southeast Asia, this city or town. Whether your skin is red, yellow, or brown, white as a sheet, or black as the night. Why are we always so ready to fight? Fighting for freedom or claiming the soil. Power, cheap labor, rubber or oil. Raising a child or raising a fist. Will you stand up for your right to resist? So many years and we're back here again. Wasn't anyone listening then? Are we listening now? Have we joined the debate? Our Gulf of Tonkin, our Watergate, our 9/11, our own demise. No more silence and no more silence and no more silence and
Oh, still so relevant.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, the words, as so many people who have written about you, you're very bold in just stating the truth and breaking silence and saying words that counter lies. And it's such a good way such a powerful way to counter sort of repeated cultural lies that we hear on, let's say, for instance, on our televisions or radio stations. And music is just such an incredible force to just get out there. If you believe / know that repetition makes a difference,
Yeah.
and sinking through our layers of conditioning and our consciousness and awareness. That is one reason to be so grateful for music that helps us think and gain clarity and touch back in with our values and what really matters.
What we learned so powerfully from that, last occupation of Washington in the last administration is that if you repeat a lie often enough, some percentage of the population is going to think it's true. And they use that to great effect. And, we're in this horrific position that we're in because they so artfully, we're able to just indoctrinate people into believing their lies.
That's really well put.
Yeah, and they based it with fear, right?
Yeah.
And which is where you can get people because,
Mhm.
it just taps something that people aren't thinking about and starts to change whether people can make a decision, or notice that they've been lied to.
It touches on a vulnerability in a core truth. It's true that there are a lot of folks, whose needs were not being met, but the reason their needs were not being met had nothing to do with people of color or LGBTQ, people or any of that. They just used that fear and that wanting and that need as a way to divide and conquer and to shut people up and to terrify people into speaking into making them fearful of speaking the actual truth.
And it happens in cycles.
Yeah.
We had a discussion recently with several people in their 60s and some people in their 20s. And at one point I said, hey, we need some hope for the youth here. Hey, like, let's reframe this. And one of them immediately turned around and said, oh yeah, sorry, we're just really caught up in the current negativity. And yeah, we're not denying the reality of like heavy challenges and some serious loss of rights, like voting, which is basic to be American, or control of your own body, which we did have for over 50 years. So yeah, we got some fights and struggles, but remember, we work through them, we get through them. And to think about now, I mean, I think you're a part of this, that now when people look back on the justification from invading Iraq, like now we know the truth. It took a long, long time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's one of the reasons why we take inspiration from Emma Goldman's life, is that she got it. Yeah, you have to tell the truth about what's really going on, but at the same time, you have to live your life and you have to remain hopeful and energized, because there is work to do. But there's, the way to get that work done is for us all to be able to come together around these things and celebrate our triumphs and grieve our losses, but ultimately move forward joyfully.
Yes, thank you for saying that. And what's the quote from Emma about dance?
Yeah, I mean, it turns out she never actually uttered these words, but
Okay.
someone attributed this to her. She said, they said, in essence, if I can't dance, I don't want to be part of your revolution. She said that everyone has the right to free expression, to beautiful, radiant things. When a young colleague chastised her for dancing at a party, as if somehow that was inconsistent with her work as an activist and an academic and an author and a speaker.
That's right. Thank you.
And those things are essential. Really, it's so important to not to separate those things. That's what being alive is. It's the balance of all of that.
That's so true. And to think about how, and your dedication, activism for like community love and justice. I imagine you couldn't keep doing this for over 2 decades if you didn't both find joy, celebration, breathing in, breathing out.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking of the fact that we just got a notification. I got a message from someone on Instagram last night who said, well, this just happened outside the Capitol in Minnesota. And then it was a video of her singing Pat's song, Keep on Moving Forward, at the Capitol, because that state is actually passing legislation to make it safe for women and people who need abortions and healthcare and reproductive care to go there and to be safe, whether they're coming from a state like Texas or Oklahoma, which wants to literally chase them down. And so that victory is happening right now. And I hope people feel heartened by that. That's the kind of thing that keeps me going, is knowing that all these years we've been with communities that are actually creating change. You might not have seen it on the news, but what we can always encourage you to do is, if you're feeling overwhelmed by the bad news that you're seeing on TV, get involved with people on the ground, because people are making change everywhere. And, who knows where we would have been without activists doing all of the work that we have. And sure, there's plenty to do now and plenty to push back against, as a lot of rights have been eroded. But there are activists out there. We're proud and honored to be part of them. Especially, there are so many great young activists who are taking leadership and really just keeping going. So that has kept us going for 21 years performing together. Plus, we love music, so we kind of get the best of both worlds. We get to see what's going on and be involved, but we get to tell the story through a song. And music and the arts have this extra power of both touching us deeply and energizing us, or bringing us closer to the issue, bringing us closer to our humanity together. And I think that helps keep us going.
And bringing us closer to one another.
Mhm.
There is something incredibly infectious and so stirring, and something about the vibration of music that I think can't help but draw us together. And when we lived in the DC area for a long time, and when we were feeling overwhelmed, we knew it was time to just get out from behind a screen and go be with people who were making change, and people were doing it all the time. And thank goodness, like so many movements around the world, music was always a component, and music was the thing that brought us together and lifted us up and helped us grieve and do all those things. But it had a way of drawing us together and healing us as a group.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I find myself wanting to go in two different directions. One is I'm dying to ask you a question for young artists who a lot of people are just struggling, trying to decide, it's still true. It's really hard in this society to believe that you can make it and survive and live in America as an artist. But I think I'm going to hold that question, because that'll be the next question, because what Pat, you just said, how songs help us grieve and heal. I'm wondering, is this a good segue into
Sure.
I Believe Her?
Yeah, sure. I was thinking that too. So I was thinking that was, so
Okay.
for us, one of the things that happens is that when there's an issue up, we would get a call from an organizer. And in this case, this was right before Dr. Christine Blasey Ford was going to be testifying to Congress about the abuse that she suffered from Brett Kavanaugh, who was then up for being put onto the Supreme Court. And she was brave enough to be ready to testify. And we got a call from an organizer from San Francisco, Indivisible, and he said, we're going to hold a vigil on Sunday night before her testimony, and can you come and can you sing? And when we get those kind of calls, it's just such an impetus to write the song. And Pat and I remember I started writing it, and that morning that we got the email from him, and we finished it together, and we sang it that Sunday, and it has a part for everyone in the group. We were gathered on a street corner in San Francisco, and it has a part for everyone to sing back, I believe her. And just as Pat was explaining, for us all to be able to sing and to acknowledge our belief of this person and her story and the reality of what she experienced was really, really powerful. Even before that Sunday that we sang it, we knew that it was going to be a song that we wanted to get out in the world to people. Probably any woman you talk to has experienced some level of harassment or abuse of any level. And so we felt this very personally, and we wanted to have the song out there. So we right away went into the studio and recorded it the night that we wrote it, maybe the night after. It was very soon. And we created this video with the help of Irene Young, who's an amazing photographer and videographer in the Bay Area. And you will hear Shelley Doty playing electric guitar and Vicki Randall singing and playing cajon. And they are extraordinary musicians. And in this video, you will just see faces of women showing that message and standing with and joining with that message of I Believe Her. And we launched the song on the Thursday that Dr. Christine Blasey Ford testified. And we recently, last spring, had the honor of singing it for her at a production that was done in Palo Alto by a dance troupe that choreographed to the song, and she was there.
Wow.
So we were honored to have that song be meaningful to her. We've heard from so many people, so many women especially, who felt that the song was meaningful. And DJ is going to play the video, I Believe Her.
He held her down,
I believe,
turned the music loud,
I believe,
so no one could hear.
I believe her.
Put his hands on her,
I believe,
covered up her mouth,
I believe,
but the truth is out.
I believe her.
I believe,
I believe,
I believe,
I believe,
I believe,
I believe her.
I believe,
I believe,
I believe,
I believe,
I believe,
I believe her.
we've been here before,
I believe,
for the highest court.
I
We
believe,
did not forget.
I believe her.
She spoke out then,
I believe,
she's speaking now.
I believe,
I still believe.
I believe her.
I believe,
I believe,
I believe,
I believe,
I believe,
I believe her.
I believe,
I believe,
I
I believe,
I believe,
I believe her.
She was on a train,
I believe,
she was walking late,
I believe,
she was in her home.
I believe her.
She didn't know,
I believe,
or she knew his name.
I believe,
It's all the same.
I believe her.
I believe,
I believe,
I believe,
I believe,
I believe,
I believe
wow, it's just so powerful. The first time I heard that, I had no idea what I was in for, and I just ended up crying. And fortunately, I'm not scared of crying. I know it's healing. I'm like, whoa, 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 something massively healing is happening. And it's just like, again, your lyrics are just to the point. They just cut to the core and validate. And then you add like the other two women and the music and the bass and the vocals and the harmonies, like, wow, because it's while you're crying, you're also being transformed and lifted up.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you so much. I mean, we hadn't seen it in a while too.
Yeah.
And, and I forgot to mention Sophia adding her beautiful voice. And there's something about people coming together in music or in art or in conversation that just lets us all feel safer, stronger, more heard, more understood.
And especially women coming together around this issue. It's women are still so invisible in around sexual assault. And during that time, Christine Blasey Ford was being so maligned and made invisible. It just felt so those words by themselves, just to be able to say, I believe her, we see you, we know.
Yeah.
And it's sadly true, and easy to focus on something else, but it's a good opportunity to say it's really true. If you look at societies all over most of the world, there's always exceptions. There's always sub-communities, subgroups. There's always amazing people, but we're still not treated as whole, complete human beings on the same level that white male and basically mostly heterosexual white male. And again, that sounds like a categorization. It's not hateful. It's just saying the truth is, women, there's still so much difference between how we are seen and accepted and supported and legally protected in most parts of the world. And it's hard to, it's really hard to think about on your own. And that's why community is so important and hope is so important. I've had, I think 3 different women or 3 different conversations with 2 women from Iran who have talked about the revolution happening there on the street and how encouraged they are because so many men are joining them. So many of their brothers and sisters and fathers and partners are out there too. And that's such a relief. And I think, again, lifts all of us up the more we support each other.
Yeah. I was thinking of the women in Iran really giving us an example right now of how intense life has become and how much courage there still is.
Incredible.
And the truth is, I actually became a feminist partly because of how I saw my dad's life. He would have been the one who would have more enjoyed raising us as kids. And he had to go out and get the job because he was going to get paid better than my mom. My mom would have been happy to have gone out and gotten a job. And so I was really aware of that for me, feminism was both about how I wanted to be treated as a girl and as a woman, and how I wanted my dad to be able to be treated and be, the soft artist person that he probably would have loved to have been. And so for me, we think about this a lot. I don't know if you remember that show that was called Extreme Home Makeover. This is long ago. We're dating ourselves, but it was about, people coming in and helping a family in need. And at the end of it, these big burly construction guys would be handing over some keys to a family whose life had been changed because, maybe they needed ramps built everywhere because someone had an accident, whatever it was, a very debilitating accident. So they are handing these keys to this family, and these big burly men are crying. And we would say to each other, there is hope for the world when men can cry, and men can cry on TV.
Yes.
Like there is something about
Yeah.
feminism that is of benefit to men.
Absolutely. To me, that's fundamental. It's like, well, if we called it something else, would it have not been more clear from the beginning? This is
Right.
this
But
is
it's
the-
just
this
like
is the, like advancing all human beings. This
Yeah.
is like,
Yeah.
because
It's just
we
like
love
addressing
people.
racism.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, the idiot in Florida is just using it to his advantage. But the truth is, you know, all Floridians of all colors and shapes and sizes and everything would benefit from getting rid of racism. You know, especially poor people, especially people that are already on the margins, and are categorically, you know, being rallied to be against this concept of talking about racism. They would benefit hugely from eradicating racism.
I mean, I can't imagine intentionally trying to make my children or anyone else's children more ignorant. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like let's take away some information and education so we can make less intelligent, less compassionate decisions.
Yeah.
It's
It's so counterintuitive.
It is.
loathsome is what it
is.
is.
It is.
It's so cynical.
It is.
Yeah.
It
Well, I'm so conscious of what everybody hear the rest of the songs we have.
I know. I think we're going to
I
have
know.
to amend
We'll
all of that
try-
list.
We'll try not to talk so much. But get
I'll
excited.
actually throw out a couple of things. Like I'd love people to hear about the piece of like when I'll just try to quickly summarize something from Pat's bio of being like, I think 4 years old, plastic banjo, was like kept leading you towards making music. And I'm skipping over a bunch, but one thing that struck me that's I think in the documentary that's being made is the story of when I think the first song you wrote as an adult at a songwriters conference after you sang it and after you had admired and respected and Pete Seeger for years and followed and loved his music for years. The first thing that happened after you completed that song was, lo and behold, Pete Seeger himself coming over to you, telling you that was the best song he thought he might have heard in about 50 years. Like,
Yeah.
that's what? Like, what? How did the universe validate you like that?
Yeah, that was it. That was a pretty amazing moment. I was, you know, a terrified little at that time, a 25-year-old, and I had just come to this conference. I think this may have been the first. It was a group called the People's Music Network, and it was the combination of two groups, a group from New England called Songs of Freedom and Struggle, and then a group that Pete had a hand in forming out of New York called the People's Music Network, that came together, songwriters sharing songs largely about peace and justice. And I made my way there because actually I heard about it through Cy Khan, a wonderful songwriter and labor organizer from North Carolina. And I went there, and I had just written this song, and I was in this circle of folks and sharing songs all around the circle, and I sang that song, and then this hand comes up around from behind me with a little slip of paper after I finished the song, and there's notation, musical notation on it. I'm not a particularly educated musician. I'm pretty much all self-taught, so I don't read notation. And I hear this voice from behind me saying, "Is this how it goes?" I had no idea because I don't read notation. I don't know. You have to sing it for me. So
Wow. Oh my
that
gosh.
was the
That's
beginning of our
amazing.
friendship.
I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
No, that was the beginning of about a 30-year friendship, actually. With Pete.
Fantastic. Oh my gosh, so much to know. That's why we have to make sure we all send in funds to help get the documentary completed. But I just want to turn to Sandy really quick, because I read in your in the Americans Who Tell the Truth bio that you were on track to become a a research scientist or biologist.
Yeah, I was
and,
interested in biology. Mhm.
and then you ended up. I'm skipping details just so we have more time for songs. But you ended up going to graduate school, studying music, learning the lute, and then ended up, you were part of another duo before, and you ended up organizing festivals, women folk music festivals. You invited Pat because you heard her wonderful music. And it's wild to think like, wow, Pat, you're entirely self-educated musically, and Sandy went to graduate school to study music.
Yep.
As you can
And you
see,
know what? I studied. Yeah, I did. I never got the degree. I never finished that degree, but I did get a bachelor's degree in music. And I was playing Renaissance music at the time. And I loved playing the lute. It's a beautiful instrument. It sounds great. But I really liked singing the songs and playing the lute. But the songs were from like the 1500s, and I really couldn't get with the message. And so that's when I started writing my own stuff. And I did hear Pat's song called Swimming to the Other Side, and I invited her on the tour that I was organizing. And that was, almost 30 years ago now, because it was
Right. Yeah.
it was 8 years before we started performing. So, I was 16 and you were, no, I'm joking. Right? So at 30 years we've known each other, and her music was so powerful and so beautiful. And I wanted her on the tour. And that is how we started working together all those years ago. So yeah, we bring a lot of different things. The music that we all each loved is different, and we bring that to Emma's Revolution, and we have sort of a mix of styles and genres and everything, because we do have different upbringings and different musical connections.
well, let me mention that our engineer was showing banners of how if people want to contribute to the making of the documentary. For listeners who can't read aren't seeing the camera, it's go to emmasrevolution.com/thefilm.
That's right. So I think it's the-film, something like that. emmasrevolution.com/the-film. And the good news about that is that you mentioned, Bahia, that you saw some clips from the film. We did a fundraiser at the end of February, and you can see a replay of that fundraiser concert that includes the 17 minutes of work in progress from the documentary. So you can still do that. There are donation levels at every level of contribution, and we invite you to be part of that with us. It's a grassroots video. It's a grassroots documentary. Ours has been a grassroots life. You were mentioning about what is it like to be an artist. We've been able to do it because we're community artists, and that means we, rely on the community to help support us, whether that means we're staying at somebody's house or you're contributing to a film. We, don't have a big contract with some other entity. This is all homespun.
Yep.
But it's incredibly rewarding. That's the good part about it. Being in touch with activists and doing what we do and getting to write and sing is really, really rewarding. Keeps us on it.
And if for anybody listening or watching, if you just love history, the documentary that's what it is. It's capturing incredible, powerful movement history and the power that Emma's Revolution has played in helping social movements gather momentum and move across the planet. And that is not an exaggeration. And there's only 6 minutes left.
I know. I think we're going to do one song and then, or something. I don't know.
What do you want to sing or have DJ? How does the spirit move you?
Well, why don't we, do you want to sing choir and then and have DJ play us out on that video of Keep On Moving Forward, which is the song that is the working title of the film.
Right.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Okay.
We'll just have to come back. There's so much to talk about.
Oh, good idea. Yes.
So, I got tired of hearing people say things like, oh, you're just preaching to the choir. And I thought about that, and I thought, while sometimes that may be the case, it is also true that the choir needs to be inspired. The choir needs to be supported. The choir needs to see and hear itself reflected back so that we can get some work done. There's a lot to do. anybody seen the choir? I want to preach to the converted. I want to see them rising up. Don't want to see one gaze averted. Don't want to have to prove a point. Just want to know they're on my side. Just want to smile and inspire. Has anybody seen the choir? Has anybody seen the church? Maybe that's where I can find them, standing tall against the fray. Strength and unity behind them. Have they gathered at the river? Are they washed upon the shore? Have they set the world on fire? Has anybody seen the choir? Has anybody seen the choir? I want to preach to the converted. I want to see them rising up. Don't want to see one gaze averted. Don't want to have to prove a point. Just want to know they're on my side. Just want to smile and inspire. Has anybody seen the choir? Are they teaching in the schools? Are they drinking in the bars? Are they making all the rules? Are they fighting in the wars? All I want to do is get a glimpse of who they are. Has anybody ever seen the choir? Though we may never reach consensus, hope is still within our reach. We can learn to move together, put some motion in our speech. We are a mighty congregation with strength beyond our means. We have the passion and desire. Has anybody seen the choir? Has anybody seen the choir? I want to preach to the converted. I want to see them rising up. Don't want to see one gaze averted. Don't want to have to prove a point. Just want to know they're on my side. Just want to smile and inspire. Has anybody seen the choir? Just want to smile and inspire. Has anybody seen the choir? Ooh.
Oh my gosh, I love the brilliance and the humor and the just truth of that song. And we only have about 50 seconds, so we're going to wrap up with a couple of closing thoughts. If and when you are just going to have to come back. But I want to. I want you each, if you could just say, even if it's a sentence, because we're just out of time, something to encourage hopeful musicians and artists, because I think they really need to hear it right now.
You know, the truth about doing this is that you have to do it. You know, you have to do it for the community, but most importantly, you have to do it for you. It's the thing that keeps us going. Is we write these songs for us first, to inspire us to continue moving through in the world and making the world a better place.
Thank you.
Yep. Be brave. Show the love.
Yep. You're not alone.
Beautiful. Thank you. I can't wait till we continue. And I want to thank DJ. Thank you very much for engineering, our producer. And again, Allison, for introducing me to Emma's Revolution. And all the listeners and viewers, and be sure to tune in next Wednesday at 8 p.m. to It's Your Voice on W4CY.com or Talk4 TV. And may we all have enriching conversations and diversity this week. Thank you again. Thanks,
Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech of the heart. Inarticulate speech, inarticulate speech let's